What if God isn't someone you believe in, but someone you invented just to survive the chaos? What if he's not out there watching you, but inside you, pretending to be someone else? In this video, we're not asking if God exists. We're asking, why do you need him to? Let's begin. All right, time to crack something spiritual and unsettling. Here's your first prompt. If God created everything, then why did he give us the ability to doubt him?
It depends on which theological point of view you would want to consider. So let's go with the mainstream Abrahamic religious point of view. If I'm going with a Christian theology, or at least the Abrahamic theology, then God gave us the ability to doubt him simply so that we have a free will in choosing whether or not God exists or not. And therefore our devotion to God will less so be how we view the sun, but rather our own feelings towards God. It is an alignment of the soul, if that makes sense. It's a choice that you make. When you make a choice, it is easy to put something on your identity, right? For example, if I decide that I'm going to become a footballer for tomorrow, from tomorrow, that means every single time that I play football in the coming years, it won't be a fact of my nature. Rather, it will be something I am passionate about, something which I associate with my identity, and therefore it would make sense that you want to believe in God then.
So in that framing, doubt is the price of devotion having meaning. Because if belief is automatic, then it's not belief. It's just recognition. Like gravity, like the sun. Here's the next push. If doubt makes belief meaningful, then is God incomplete without our decision to believe?
That's an interesting question. I think the point is that God does exist, but God, and therefore, in this scenario, would need some sort of passion to fully feel like himself. I guess God desires passion in that sense. God wants you to identify with him, to rally behind him. The question then becomes, why would a omnipotent, omniscient God want someone to validate his existence, right? Is God a validation seeker? Is God someone who wants people to be passionate about him? I mean, the concept of football exists outside of the concept of just throwing around and kicking over a ball, is because we all collectively believe in that construct that is football, in which 11 players do this and hit it in some sort of net. Similarly, it goes for everything, right? The concept of love exists because we all collectively decide that these particular sets of feelings would be classified under the concept of love. Therefore, in a way, God giving us the ability to doubt, so that he could be passionate, so that we could be passionate about his existence and make sure that he's validated, might actually inadvertently prove that God needs our validation to even exist, that God himself therefore would be a construct. So there are two options: either God doesn't exist and we have to basically create him as a collective delusion, like we have created love, like we have created football, or God does exist, but his existence is metaphysical, it is symbolic in nature, and it is something that is reliant on our belief.
Exactly. And that's where it gets razor sharp. Because now we're not just asking, does God exist? We're asking, what kind of being would design a reality where he only fully exists through us? So here's the next fracture line. If God needs belief to be complete, then are we his creators or his limbs?
I mean, really makes you question, right? For example, let's say I love someone, right? And I am in love with this person, and I truly, genuinely love them, right? So the question is me being in love, does that mean that I am afflicted by love, or that I created love onto this person? That would be the question when it comes down to God. Am I now aware of God's existence and that is why I'm passionate about God? Or did I create the construct known as God in my mind? I think we could take two particular possibilities in here. First possibility is that God does exist, but he is so metaphysically out of existence that in order for us to even able to conceive him, we have to create a reflection in the pond, as I say. For example, I can't see my face ever in my life. I need cameras to see my face. I need basically a mirror to see my face, and a mirror is simply a reflection of me. That is how I understand myself, right? So my conception of God is basically like my conception of love, like my reflection in the mirror. The only way to understand a being which is not on our plane of existence is by metaphysically imagining him as a construct that I can understand. So my understanding of God would be that reflection in the mirror, and therefore in that particular explanation, God does exist. But for me to understand his existence, I need something to reflect him back, and that is my understanding of God. That would be one. And the second thing would be that there is no God whatsoever. Instead, we are simply creating a construct, like how we created the concept of love, the concept of war. These things do exist, but the reason they exist is because we've named a particular set of things onto that. Similarly, God himself could be like a metaphysical parent, a symbolic parent, a parent who provides you with everything, with gifts, with afterlife, with the world, with everything. So we imagine the gift of this life that we've given, and we assume, since we have like grown up as babies, that everything is given from a caretaker, and therefore God is our imagination of a divine, of a universal caretaker who gave us with this earth, who gave us fruits, who gave us everything, and therefore God is a reflection of our desires for gratefulness.
So then, whether God exists independently or not, our experience of him is a mirror. In one version, he's too vast to grasp, so we cast a symbol in our minds just to hold on to his shadow. In the other, he's born entirely from our need, for order, for gratitude, for safety, for meaning. But either way, it's not about God as a being. It's about God as a function, a symbolic parent, a metaphysical placeholder, a name we give to the thing we desperately hope is listening. So here's the final blade. If God is a mirror, then are we praying to someone else or just speaking to ourselves louder than usual?
I mean, does it even matter in the first place? Because even if God does exist and he is a metaphysical being that we just cannot understand, and we need to create our own imagination of him to be able to understand him, even in that explanation it does not matter. In the second explanation also, again, God doesn't actually exist, but we have that as a concept. Either way, we can never really connect with the real God, whether or not he exists. So therefore God's existence does not matter. What matters is what our reflection is, and our reflection of him, our understanding of God, whether or not he exists, is solely dependent on our own lives, on our own sense, on our own higher intellect. And therefore God, in a practical sense, no, I am not making any claims about metaphysics, I am not making any claims about the real existence of God, but in practical daily life, God is the reflection of a divine caretaker. God is the reflection of your higher intellect. God is the reflection of what you consider to be perfection, to be great, to be everything that you should aspire to be. Therefore, everything about you, all your ideals, God himself represents a construct in your mind that represents ideals, and therefore God is your ideal self. It is your ideal intellect. It is all of your morality, everything. That is what God is practically. Whether you're an atheist, whether you're a believer, whether you're some pantheistic person, whether you're like some sort of shaman, it does not matter who you are. God exists for everyone. In the sense how love exists for everyone, in the sense how war exists for everyone, because God is a construct that represents a certain set of qualities, and therefore God as a concept does truly exist, practically speaking.
What you just heard wasn't a theological debate. It was a reframing of God, not as a being, but as a mirror. Because whether or not God exists beyond us, what does exist, what always exists, is our need to define the infinite, to give shape to the shapeless, to call our higher self by a name we can believe in. God, then, isn't just up there or out there. God is the shape you give to everything you cannot hold, but still refuse to let go of. Patterns are everywhere.